Today, BookBuzzters would like to take you to Ringworld by Larry Niven.
Let's get out of here. Ready for light speed? 1, 2, 3!
Ringworld by Larry Niven. I have to preface our review today by admitting this is one of those books on the list that I only just read for the very first time a few weeks ago. And then I got to thinking about it and I figured out why. Why did I shelf this book for 50 years and never open it up? Turns out, I think it's entirely possible that for many years, before I ever considered reading all the joint winners of the Hugo and Nebula Prize for this project, I was 13 years old. I had just finished reading Lord of the Rings, and I was fishing around for another book, kind of desperately. I want to get another kind of book like Lord of the Rings in my hands and read it as soon as possible. And somebody handed me Ringworld by Hose Farmer, which had come out fairly close to the same time as Ringworld by Larry Niven. And I was so disappointed by that book. I was so kind of put off by that story. I didn't finish it. And then I was rooting around for another book, and somebody handed me Discworld by Terry Pratchett, which also didn't really fit the bill. It was another book that I kind of just wasn't interested in and didn't finish reading. And I think ever since that time I've conflated all these books with the word world in it. Ringworld, Riverworld, Discworld. I never read any of them until I picked up Ringworld again just 2 weeks ago. I'm happy to report I'm totally over the whole thing with having world in the title of the books. That's not an issue anymore. So in our BookBuzzters review, we'll start with our traditional blue lightsaber for the big science-y idea. And obviously, Ringworld does a pretty bang-up job in this category. I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that the Ringworld itself is the big tamale. It's a fantastical, enormous structure that functions a bit like a Dyson sphere. It completely encircles this star and captures the energy. I don't want to get into too much detail. There's a crazy amount of speculation, analysis, and criticism that this thing has generated over the many years that this book has been out. People have really gone over this structure with a fine-tooth comb. So there's plenty of other material about that. At first, I was pretty dismissive of the big idea of Ringworld also. But Larry Niven does some really neat explaining. He's very good at talking about science. He's been labeled as one of the earliest writers in this hard science fiction category. Now, that said, I want to say Riverworld again and again. Ringworld is still really outlandish. It's an enormous, bold idea. Did I mention it completely encircles an actual star? So, again, my impression was it reminded me of Asimov's Planet-Wide City from the Foundation series, except this is a billion times bigger. Niven also tosses around some other very cool, very way futuristic pseudoscience ideas. Specifically, I think that Ringworld is the very first book to actually specifically use the term quantum hyperdrive, which now seems to be the most common verbiage in use applied to FTL travel. This work, written in 1970, is the third joint winner of the Hugo and Nebula Prizes. Niven's characters also use a device they refer to as the flashlight laser. So think of the totally obvious imagery now. What comes to mind when they describe a cutting beam of light emitted from a flashlight-shaped handle? They also resort to using it quite often as a sword. There you have it. 1970, Lightsaber. So, after all that, Niven does not really get into his science with a very practical bent. There's never a point in the book, never much in the way of aha, this is our future. Nonetheless, Ringworld is a great read because it's a joy. He goes deep, he goes long, and he chucks his sci-fi ball way, way, way downfield. So for that, he lands a stellar 5 blue flashlight lightsaber. Moving along in our review for the green flashlight laser. Did I mention this book was written in 1970? So unfortunately there's very little to say about Ringworld for Niven's literary style. I mean, he's a competent writer. Yeah, he has a very vivid and fevered imagination, but this book's pace and the action are, did I mention it's 1970? It's slow. It takes almost a third of the book to even get to the Ringworld. When they get there, well, then there's a lot of wandering around, picking at the detritus of what it's very much a bit of a letdown. It's a pretty dead place. The structure is abandoned. It's pretty decrepit. The natives have reverted to being silly yokel primitives, and it's kind of a bit unsatisfying. So Larry Niven ends up with only 3 green flashlight lasers for his writing style. For BookBuzzters, the red flashlight laser Sith storytelling category, Larry Niven has a very mixed legacy. On the one hand, he does amazing work spinning a humongous tale of stupendous discovery by this very odd alien race, the puppeteers. But then these weirdo aliens, the puppeteers, they end up being really cartoonish and annoying. They're bovine, 2-headed, ultra mega super paranoid. And they enlist other races, like the humans and the Kzinti, to do their dirty work for checking out Ringworld. Because it ends up they're afraid of their own shadow. Now, we're supposed to believe that these are the masters of the universe. Now, the other aliens that he brings up in the story, the Kzinti, are these ferocious 8-foot walking, talking tigers. They're also extremely cartoonish and a little bit annoying, and he doesn't present them in a way that you really think you can't ever take them seriously. Our protagonist in this book, the cool leading man, comes with a great name, Louis Wu. He's interestingly styled after a hipster sort of Fu Manchu, complete with a Qing Dynasty Q hairdo. And then there is the female lead character, Tila Brown, who is, very oddly, revealed to be the product of eons of genetic manipulation to produce people with good luck. The puppeteers do this to mitigate problems for their species. She also turns out to be a total bimbo. Did I mention it's 1970? So some of these characters are ingenious. Most of them end up being just rather flawed. Nonetheless, you got to remember the time frame, the year we're working with, for this realm of speculative fiction. Both the readers and the writers at this time clearly dug Larry Niven's work. They dug his groovy vibe, and they ended up giving him both the Hugo and Nebula prizes for Hippie of the Year honors. Niven deserves 4 red flashlight lasers for his Sith storytelling, so I'm giving him 4 flashlight lasers. Now, lastly, for our final scientific, rational, totally unbiased analysis for the overall book rating, Larry Niven is hereby and forthwith in perpetuity granted a distinguished total 4 purple lightsaber lasers for the overall work of Ringworld. Now, bonus information. We at BookBuzzters have, in the course of our literary travels, discovered a not so surprising factoid. Most of the works that we cover in the combined Hugo and Nebula Prize winner categories are then more fully exploited by various nerds and geeks to make role-playing games and video games. And this, of course, this is all good. More toys, yay. So check this one out. This game cover, this depiction of a prancing giant golden peacock, it seems, in a suit of Asgardian destroyer armor. Well, what do you think of that? So let me tell you, that looks like a great way to spend your summer vacation in 1984. Or kill time during, COVID shutdowns. But we're not done. In 1992, Tsunami Games released 2 more adventure games based on Ringworld. And lastly, got a note, Wikipedia claims, this is pretty amazing, that Ringworld even was cited as inspiration for the video game Halo, which is kind of cool.